How is it poppin'? It's been a month since Xenoblade X Definitive Edition came out, and it's been a week now since I finally finished the new epilogue. I took my time to let it sink in and form some eligible thoughts that I can discuss in this video. It's been one heck of a wild ride, Takahashi. If you want to see my hot out of the oven reactions, I should have uploaded my live playthroughs on YouTube, so go check them out. Because here I will go in depth about all the positives and negatives out of the new expanded chapter 13 stuff. If you want my quick review of the definitive edition, 10 out of 10. Being able to change party members on the fly alone is worth getting this game. Got Jug finally playable after 10 years? God yes. Neil, Nail and Liesel are great, the Gräswelk is so much fun. Everyone should play this game. It elevated a great game to even greater heights. But I want to focus on the new chapter 13 here. Honestly, my biggest takeaway from it is that we finally got answers. After 10 years, we finally have a complete game, and me personally, I couldn't be more happy. There is a big negative that I will get into later, but expect a lot of glazing, because I really enjoyed my time with this game. So let's get this thing going. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Xenoblade content. I really hope I can cover everything I want to cover, because there's so much stuff I want to talk about. I guess first I want to mention that I was completely unspoiled going into this, which was kinda scary for me actually, because I thought if it was hype, I would have been spoiled for sure. But these thoughts were thankfully unwarranted. I loved every second of this new stuff, man, and I was shocked to see that other people were not as excited as me about it. There are a lot of weird complaints about the game, to be honest, and I will get into that later, but people were complaining about the simplest stuff, like that it had too many flashbacks, or the final boss was somehow too easy or too hard on both extremes. It kind of feels like the whole Xenoblade 2 situation again, when Xenoblade 1 fans didn't like how it connected to it and that it redefined Xenoblade's world or whatever, so they were needlessly hating on the new stuff. Listen, two of my biggest theories were crushed in this epilogue. The biggest one being the Klaus connection, and the second one being the lone hero coming from Elma's race, which, by the way, we still don't have a name for it. Takahashi, what are you doing? But with both of these theories shot down, I still love the new stuff. I'm always going into these stories with an open mind. Making theories and trying to connect the dots is fun, but I want to see the story that Takahashi wants to tell and not just have it confirm my theories. But I will admit that I'm not 100% happy with everything, and we will get into that. By the way, the writing in this epilogue is so good. There are tons of scenes where I felt like they were calling us out directly. There's this one scene when Aloise first shows up and Gwyn is disappointed that it's just a guy, indirectly making fun of us theorists who are trying to figure out who this is. And then there's this scene where Elma tries to connect the dots between the different dimensions, the ghost and so on, and Doug asks her if she's maybe jumping the gun. I noticed a lot of cheeky writing and I love it. Okay, I guess let's start there. The pacing of this epilogue threw me off completely. Of course, compared to the main story, this is going at breakneck speeds. This is not a negative though. It falls in line with the main series DLC approach, and it fits perfectly for the style of epilogue this was going for. I would not like this to be the pacing of the main story, especially in an open world setting, but they crammed a lot of stuff in here, even compared to the likes of Torna in Future Redeemed. I think it could have been spread out a little better, because literally the biggest lore drop happened at the beginning of Act 2, and the act ended with trying to convince Anopo not to die and collect shit all over Mira. But honestly, putting one of the biggest lore drops right there was the thing that caught me off guard and made the moment even better, so maybe it's a good thing after all. I also don't really get the too many flashbacks argument, especially when they expanded some of the old cutscenes, which I loved to see. And even the basic flashbacks were just done to get the right context out of the current discussion, because they didn't want to pan to the characters all the time. As I said, the pacing in this DLC was super fast, so a few flashbacks here and there didn't kill my excitement, it just gave me time to breathe. And rounding up the gameplay side of things, I really didn't think the final boss was too weak or too hard. I get that it's super difficult to scale a boss to the insane endgame builds you can make in this game, but I got to it right after finishing chapter 12 on stream, so I didn't have time to make a broken build or anything, and it still was easy with my normal level 50 scale. So I definitely don't get the complaints about it being too difficult. But yes, it took me way too long to realize the gimmick of this fight, so I let him escape a few times. I loved the new area and how they implemented it. Absolutely adore the new soundtrack, especially the Void Boss fight and the new key we've lost. And I now officially hate L because it took me 1 hour to find him. Overall, gameplay wise, I had so much fun. Running around with the new Prime Ares will never not be satisfying. Next up, this is big. Let's talk about leaving Mira. After I was done with the game, I saw a lot of people hated the epilogue because of this. And I mean hated it with a passion. There are two ways to see this in my opinion. On one hand, I think a lot of people hate this idea because they think they shoehorned this ending to try to connect it to the rest of the series and that this wasn't the original intent, and now the whole game feels less important because we took a long time to build up Mira and now it feels like it was meaningless. I can't sit here and argue if this was the original intent 10 years ago or not, and I get where people are coming from because I love Mira too. But I think that's exactly why this was so effective to me. Listening to the characters mourn over losing Earth in the OG game was effective because we know Earth and we can imagine what it was like for them to lose it, but we weren't there when it happened and our Earth is also still fine, so it didn't feel as impactful as now losing Mira. We spent 10 years exploring and coming to love this place, and now this catastrophic event is put in a new light for me. We are losing Mira forever. There is no equivalent. It felt heartbreaking, like actually losing a character we love. And it elevated the stakes to a degree I never felt before in Xenoblade. In Xenoblade 1, we reset and restore the world. In Xenoblade 2, we also restore the world again. And even in 3, we get the happy ending of having a new combined world. But we are losing a planet again. And we can do nothing about it. We barely managed to escape and survive. And we get to experience firsthand what it feels like to lose our home. Original intent or not, this was such an amazing decision in my opinion. And we still don't know if the new ending even leads to a combined future. It doesn't even look like the future redeemed ending Earth, so I don't think they were forcing anything here. So yeah, I loved it. Let's talk about Big Al, another point of contention I've seen online. People are actually disappointed that he's just a guy. I don't get it. My theory literally got debunked and I still love this character. Once again, it is unclear if this was the original intent or not, but his design and role was already established back in the original Art of Mira art book, and look, they know exactly what they were doing. They knew the fanbase was talking about the Black Knight stuff for years and even teased him twice coming back in the new trailers without ever showing his face. As I said, Gwyn even made the joke about him just being a guy in the game itself. I think the subversion was still worth it though, because Al is just a great guy. I also feel a lot of people reduce him to the new "how is it poppin" meme, but I like his quirkiness in an unironic way. Honestly, he stands proud next to the other DLC characters like Adam and Matthew in this short period of time that we get to spend with him. I got to love his personality and characterization. Bro, Monolith Soft figured something out, I swear. They have the perfect formula for these DLC type characters that we get to meet so late and have to stand next to the other main characters and still feel important and well written in this short period of time. It's hard to put into words, but imagine the original version of Xenoblade X with him as the main protagonist. It would have been so good. And honestly, another big part of what I loved about him was his dynamic with Elma. He finally made her open up and show her weaker side. Elma was always one of my favorite Xenoblade characters, but this epilogue elevated her so much more. She was always stoic, badass and kind, but she was hiding her true self and had many secrets. Right as she opened up to the rest, the original game just ended and we never got more. But now we actually get to see her scared, sad and even kind of sassy with Elle. I will say that character writing in Monolith Soft games improved so much over the years, and you can clearly tell with this epilogue that they worked on improving character writing, especially for Lynn and Elma. Oh, and while we are here, another huge important detail why I like Elma so much more now is that we finally get to see her backstory. Oh my god, this was such a big deal to me. Finally, we know why she came to Earth in the first place. Finally, we get to know why she knew the war above Earth would happen. As I said in the intro, the best part about this epilogue is that we finally got all the answers we've been waiting for so long. And it didn't end with "the story truly never ends." Thank you, Takahashi. But yeah, honestly, the interactions between Elle and Elma kinda remind me of A and Matthew, even though they're not exactly the same, but I love their dynamic. This game honestly boosted Elma to my top 3 favorite female characters, overtaking Melia. And I want to put Aloise in my top 3 next to Rex and Shulk as well, but I don't know if I'm confident enough for that, so top 5 at least. Perfect segue for another favorite character of mine, Lao Huang. I'm very confident that this plot point was changed for Definitive Edition. We can't speak for the original version of Mira's outcome, but the artbook clearly had a story laid out of the then Black Knight that still had the Kreswerk as his skull. You can also tell by the fact that Aloise just gets a random black coat for this specific cutscene, even though he didn't have one before or after. It's something they retroactively had to make work. The story plot with the Black Knight and Lao was rewritten for sure and became the Nirvana scene with Lao and Elle. This is something I've heard and read about, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's a custom in Japan to not use a character any longer if his previous voice actor died, and out of respect for Keiji Fujiwara's death, they let Lao rest as well. If that's true or not is unclear, but either way, I don't feel like we have been baited into Lao's revival in any way. I feel like this decision elevated his character to even greater heights. I actually had tears in my eyes during the whole scene. They gave his character closure and a truly happy ending by allowing him to see his family. I also love how the whole discussion comes back around to humans being able to truly be horrible people, which was one of the most important messages of the base game, but Lao realizes that with self-reflection you can prevent yourself from becoming corrupt. This even contributes to Lynn's development and its peak. And bro, let's not forget that his spirit literally comes back at the end of the game to perform a father-son Kamehameha to blast Void into oblivion. Peak fiction. While we are on the topic of character writing, let's talk about Void. Again, I see mixed reactions to Void, and once again, I really enjoyed him, but it took very different turns throughout my playthrough. First, I was super intimidated and actually ecstatic that we finally get to see the Great One, a mystery that was kept for 10 years. We finally live in a world where we know who the Great One is, and in the end, he delivered. I love the voice and the aura the character has, especially when Volataris appears above Mira. He starts to lose aura after a while though, when I realized that he also was just fleeing from the ghost and he started to sound a bit like Alpha with his systematic logic instead of having emotions. He felt less intimidating, and around the end of the game he even started to feel like Zed a bit when he started to cry about death and stuff. But to be fair, he appeared more often in front of us in the 8 hours of Epilogue than Zed did in the entire main game of 3. My opinion changed again when we finally got to his backstory though. Having a good backstory does so much and it expands the lore even more. Him being an actual Samarian professor who studied the conduit makes him like a parallel to Klaus. His experiment triggered something way worse than Klaus did though. And it was super interesting to get all the new Samarian lore, like the ancient Samarians didn't want to kill him for the crimes because death to them is anathema, which means unholy, but they made his punishment way worse than death for some reason, shackling his body and mind for eternity in a prison between dimensions. So retroactively, if you go back and watch him again, it makes so much sense that Void is the way he is. His mind rotted for millennia, and unable to die, he wanted to know death. See how such a backstory can easily elevate him over Z for me, because both Z and Void stand thematically for parallel themes, Void for death and Z for endless life, but giving him a reason and a backstory for it makes it so much better. He is responsible for calling the ghost, creating the Ares and the ganglion. So many answers. I really love it. And while we are at it, I am also in the belief, like many other people, that the reason Z looks like Void is because Origin took the inspiration for many of its concepts from the real actual events from a different universe, and the reason Ouroboros and Mobius souls look like the Ares cores is the same. Origin is connected to the conduit, and these are clear replications of that concept. There's no doubt about it. Next on my list, let's talk about the ghost for a bit. It's sad to me that they still are not the focus of this epilogue, but in reality, that is a good thing. We thought they were just a rival faction to the ganglion, but they made them so much scarier. When Elma started to quote a Bible verse, I got chills all over my body. Making them the main opponent would have lessened the impact and the stakes of the DMAT events. These are angels of the apocalypse, the universe's correcting system. This feels like an endgame type of threat or even an inevitability. I still have yet to play Xenosaga, so I'm unsure how connected they truly are to Gnosis, because there are a lot of similarities but also not. So I will come back to that soon, I'm sure. Do I want to jump to it? I guess it's time. Do I like the way they connected the game to the rest of the series? Yes. But here's the point where some negative thoughts creep in. I want to say up front, I am happy that it finally is confirmed that Xenoblade X is part of the main series now, even if it has a separate storyline that is not intertwined with the numbered games. That's what I wanted in the first place. I didn't need the story of X to ever cross-connect with the other plotline again, but I felt like retconning the Klaus experiment to be the start of every Blade story would have been a way more appealing connection than just a different dimension approach. This did not come out of nowhere. Klaus already confirmed in 2 that multiple universes coexist side by side. This was always a possibility, and I said so myself in many videos. I just felt like this was the easiest way to connect them, and it felt too disjointed to be hype. I still think they could have made it work by retconning the Klaus cutscene a bit like they did with Xenoblade 2, and as the epilogue was going and they explained that the universe from the previous Earth disappeared as well, I was still thinking this could work out because of Klaus pressing the button, but they made it clear, no, that is not the case, and it was just a different Earth in a parallel dimension. And I am in no way disappointed or sad that they had a different approach in mind. Hey, the ripple that woke Void up from his coma could have been the Klaus experiment if you want to go there, but I think it's fine that they didn't want to retcon the Klaus cutscene. Here is my problem though. Why bother and tease the Earthlife colonization project Exodus in Future Redeemed? They literally already knew they had a different story ready when they started Future Redeemed, so they could have not teased it in that way. And don't tell me this was just an Easter egg like every other Xenosaga coper. I've said multiple times how the radio in that time frame was not meant for Easter eggs, but for real life events that happened during Klaus's time. And now what they have created is not only a parallel Earth in a different dimension, but an Earth that coincidentally also had an Earthlife colonization project Exodus that had a different purpose in that universe. We are now stringing too many coincidences together, or we are dealing with possible endless variations of Earths that all have different outcomes depending on what the writers want to do with them. This can easily fall into the huge trap of every what if fanfiction could be true in a different dimension type writing. I really don't like this type of thing. I am 100% fine with multiple dimensions, upper and lower domains, the collective unconsciousness, the edge of all dimensions, the afterlife, nirvana. All these concepts are what make the franchise so brilliant. But if we introduce two separate dimensions that coincidentally both have similar Earths, similar people, and a similar project, we're not just talking about different dimensions, but possibly alternate endings. I like stories that have a concrete and set in stone ending. Different universes should just mean it's a different place in this huge multiverse, but they are all unique places heading towards their own respective futures. All that being said, I want to be optimistic and see the positives in that. I am not all doom and gloom about the future of the franchise or whatever. I trust that Takahashi has better writing capabilities than creating what-if endings and meaningless events because it was fine in another universe. I think they didn't want to retcon X, and they had to make it fit in some way. The obvious parallels to Klaus's Earth and Xenoblade X's Earth might just be because some events were set in motion in the past that inevitably led to the same evolution. They already established the Samarians were progenitors to humans in X, and now that everything is connected and it's confirmed that they travel through different dimensions, it definitely makes Klaus and his people descendants of Samar as well. In a perfect scenario, this would explain the many parallels, but I still hope it does not end up being more than 2 or 3 similar Earths overall. As long as it can be explained with a common origin, in this case Samarians settling in similar planets, I will be fine with it. To finish this off, let's talk about the future of this franchise. They establish the multiverse connections, but it does not seem to cross-connect back to Future Redeemed's ending. Maybe it does, but the planet developed long enough to get rings, which instantly implies all the characters we know from the numbered games are dead anyway. Yes, we do have confirmation of the afterlife and even ways to get people back in some roundabout ways, thanks to tapping into the consciousness abyss and so on, but I don't see why there would be a need to go there if they could have just made the planet the same as the one from Future Redeemed. I think they want to make separate stories from now on. I should mention that I already know that the ending shot looks super similar to the opening cutscene of Xenogears of all things, but even if that is somehow the same planet, I am not confident that this is a teaser for any future connections to it. From the little I know from Gears, it has no correlation to anything X does, and the rights to Gears are also not in Takahashi's hands anymore. I also don't think this is a reboot of Gears. I can easily see them do a follow-up to Xenoblade X that is yet again completely unrelated to any other events in the franchise that just takes place on this new planet. They set it up perfectly. We have a new world to explore, and these characters are now way more knowledgeable about the whole multiverse history, and the X games could be our way into learning more about the Samarians, Ghost, and the afterlife connections in the future, while the numbered games can continue to follow its own plot that may lead into more revelations in the future. Or I could see them trying to connect the numbered games to Saga in a direct way instead of this multiverse thing. Not gonna lie, it would be kinda meh if they did the whole Earth 3 and Dmitry Yuriev was another guy in that parallel universe stuff again. But I get that this might be the only way to connect the old IPs without retconning major stuff. I just hope Takahashi makes better plans for the future so we don't have another repeat of that. I would love it if Xenosaga directly connects to the Klaus saga, and also I was a firm believer that the light at the end of Future Redeemed was Cosmos, but that was also when we thought the radio had important hints for the future, only for them to switch it up. And if we look at the Xenosaga cutscene of Cosmos falling towards Earth again, we can clearly see rings on this planet as well. So now we have a double doozy on our hands, and maybe Xenoblade X and Saga connect while the numbered games don't, or they mix us up once again and the Earth from Future Redeemed does actually grow rings really quickly afterwards, and Saga X and the numbered games all connect because they are mad lads. At this point, I don't know. I'm just here for the ride. So, how is it popping now? Because I'm feeling better than you, meaning terrific. Please tell me in the comments what you think about everything. I love reading your comments, so let's keep this discussion going there. I will follow up with many more videos about what this all means for the rest of the series and how many answers we finally got in this epilogue. It did leave new questions though, so I will discuss them in the future too. So don't forget to subscribe to see all these videos and leave a like before you go. Don't do it for me. Do it for Nia.